Up next, Authentically Detroit welcomes the program director for Sidewalk Detroit, Augusta Morrison, along with Earth Futures fellow Billy Mark, to discuss how they're advancing public life and strong social infrastructure through the lens of arts, culture, collaborative design, and deep engagement with residents. But first, this week's hot takes from Michigan Public and NBC News. Michigan officials insist 2019 auto no-fault law lowered car insurance rates. It didn't. And Paramount launches hostile bid for Warner Brothers Discovery despite the Netflix deal. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit starts after these messages. Interested in renting space for corporate events, meetings, conferences, social events, or resource fairs? The MASH Detroit Small Business Hub is a 6,000 square feet space available for members, residents, and businesses and organizations. To learn more about rental options at MASH Detroit, contact Nicole Perry at nperry@ecn-detroit.org or 313-331-3485. Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from Detroit's East Side at the Stoudemire inside of the East Side Community Network headquarters. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
We're back again. Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people in the city of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Today, we have Augusta Morrison and Billy Mark of Sidewalk Detroit in the studio with us to talk about Echoes Soundmaps and their inclusive approach to a creative city and neighborhood building. Augusta and Billy, welcome to Authentically Detroit.
A pleasure to be here.
And we also have our Volta Youth Voices participant, Kenneth, in the building. Kenneth, what's up?
Nothing much. Glad to be out of school.
Happy to have you. So, everybody, Donna Givens-Davidson, good to see you. How's the day finding you?
Oh, busy, but good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, just working on a whole lot of meetings and just celebrating my granddaughter's 8th birthday this weekend.
Luna's 8?
I've been a grandmother for 8 years.
Oh, my goodness.
It was amazing. So Luna and Maverick were there, and we were at Kalahari.
Oh, y'all were at Kalahari at the water park.
At the water park, yes.
Oh, man,
Great
that's
fun.
so much fun.
But yeah, I'm back to work today.
Back to work. Back to life. Back to reality. Augusta, Billy, how's the day finding you both?
Day is good. It's been kind of cold, so I've been having a heater next to me all day and keeping cozy.
Been hibernating in the heat.
I'm in it.
I know that's right.
Yeah, living that good, busy life too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Meeting, but just super happy to be here and be in conversation.
Happy to have you.
Yeah.
Kenneth, how you doing?
I just want to get testing over with.
Oh, yeah.
It's the anticipation. I need to get done with this testing so I can just lay back.
I understand. All right, it's almost over. Hang in there.
But it's not yet.
Hang in there. All right, y'all, for hot takes. Michigan officials insist 2019 auto no-fault law lowered car insurance rates. It didn't, says Tracy Samilton of Michigan Public. The Michigan Department of Insurance and Financial Services, DIFS, says a new report shows the state's 2019 auto no-fault law lowered insurance rates for drivers and also decreased the number of uninsured drivers on the road. It's not true. The report by the consultant firm McMillman on the impact of the law shows that on average, rates have increased by close to $200 from 2019 to 2024. In its December 2nd press release, DIFS also misrepresented the report's findings on uninsured drivers, claiming the number had gone down. In fact, there are more uninsured drivers now than before the reforms were enacted. The report requested by the Michigan legislature and commissioned by the state's Department of Insurance and Financial Services, said drivers had saved about $357 a year on average, largely based on one portion of car insurance premiums, the personal injury protection, PIP portion. PIP pays for medical care for injuries the insured driver and passengers sustain in crashes, but those savings were essentially swallowed by sometimes double-digit rate increases approved by the Department of Insurance and Financial Services over the years. And while car insurance costs in Michigan did dip after the 2019 reforms, they soon began rising again, with 2024 the most expensive year the report measured. To arrive at its savings figure, the report relied on a series of assumptions about what would have happened to insurance rates if the 2019 auto no-fault law hadn't been enacted. Here's the quote. "It is not possible to accurately measure the effects of the no-fault law by simply comparing actual average pre- and post-reform premiums because the period during which the reform was implemented and thereafter was heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic," the report says. Doug Heller, a car insurance expert with the Consumer Federation of America, called the DIF's statements a form of gaslighting. Here's what he said. "When you have to make adjustments based on assumptions to prove your points, you might not have a good point," Heller said. Donna, what say you?
Oh, my goodness. I have so many things to say. The first thing I want to say is follow the money. Anytime you want to look at why something happens, follow the money. Who was asking for auto insurance reform? Absolutely everybody. But who paid for the legislation that went forward? Who subsidized the campaigns of the folks who went forward? Largely the auto insurance industry. And I want to also make sure people remember that the now new candidate for independent governor funded the campaigns for two people out of Detroit, put billboards up, and supported the people to be elected to office with the goal of having them support these so-called reforms.
Elected to the legislature.
Elected to the state legislature. Thank you for clarifying that. He paid for that. One was Adam Ollier, and the other one was, I can't think of the other one who
Marshall
won.
Bullock.
Marshall Bullock, thank you. And so, afterwards, they all, were very proud of it. But what this law did was it ended Michigan unique, unlimited lifetime medical benefits. It unlocked that, and it says you're no longer going to have that. And what insurers had claimed is the reason our insurance was so ridiculously high in our state is because of the unlimited lifetime limit. Well, now you have options. You can pay for less lifetime insurance. We won't talk about the consequences for those people who are catastrophically injured in automobile accidents, but the reality that our insurance, the people who regulate insurance in our state need to be replaced by people who actually care about the citizens, because it is a travesty that they looked at that report and twisted the meaning in order to justify what happened in the past. And again, as people are looking at gubernatorial candidates, look at the fact that we have one who advocated for this and who is prepared to gaslight us continuously and say that this somehow reform worked. It worked for insurers, but it sure didn't work for us.
Well, I want to remind everybody that Outlier Media did a full investigation of why automotive insurance rates are so high. Back in August of 2024, car insurance rates cost in Detroit at an average of $5,300 a year are too expensive for many in the city to afford. And the question is why? Auto theft and break-ins are certainly higher in Detroit than much of the state, but crime alone does not explain the city's dubious honor of having higher insurance rates than any other big city in the country. A nearly year-long investigation with the markup into the high cost of auto insurance in Detroit made clear how heavily insurers rely on location to set rates and how Black Michiganders are saddled with the most expensive policies. This is despite a 2019 state law that banned companies from using zip codes to set rates in an attempt to fix the disparity. You could go to Outlier Media and look at this investigation. What it essentially found is that where areas... Black folks are most likely to live in high-density urban areas within the state. And so in places like Detroit, in places like Saginaw, in places like Benton Harbor, in places like Flint, you're going to see you're going to see higher rates than any other places in the state. And so the investigation, to give away like the meat of it and the answer of it, it's racist policies that's still it's contributing to high automotive insurance rates. Go ahead, Donna.
You know where the most deaths, the most fatal car accidents are in rural places where Black people don't live, right?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. The Michigan Chamber of Commerce PAC and the Super PAC together funded over $1.7 million to lawmakers who supported this. And that included the Michigan Insurance Coalition, the Auto Club Group, and Insurance Alliance of Michigan. Other major pro-reform PACs included the Michigan Farm Bureau PAC, the Auto Club PAC of Michigan, and the Michigan Association of Insurance Agents PAC. They were motivated to end unlimited lifetime benefits for medical benefits. Who opposed it? The Michigan Health and Hospital Association, the Michigan Association for Justice, and PACs tied to hospital systems, including Henry Ford, Friends of Spectrum Health, and Michigan Doctors PAC. In other words, this was insurance against healthcare serving institutions. And what they did was they demonized hospitals and blamed hospitals for high insurance rates. What we see now is that many people don't have access to adequate care after catastrophic injuries. And I believe in accountability. If you stand for something, if you say something is going to work and you push it that hard, then you also ought to own the errors.
They're not owning it. And let me tell you.
I'm selling it.
And I think, I think that I am gainfully employed. I hate having to pay auto insurance. It's a burden, and so for people who are able to drive legally in the city of Detroit, it is such a privilege because it is astronomical, even for somebody who makes a nice amount of money. It's insane.
And so now we talk about the criminalization of Black people.
That part.
Criminalization of poverty, but also Blackness, because we know Blackness is tied to high insurance rates. The good thing about growing older is my rates have gotten very reasonable, so my bad.
Well, they were supposed to go down at 26 years old.
Wait.
I'm 10 years from that.
Wait till you're 60, okay?
Yeah.
It gets good.
It gets good. All right. Well, I will. I hope to live long enough to see it.
And you shall.
I will. For hot takes, Paramount launches hostile bid for Warner Brothers Discovery despite Netflix deal. This is by NBC News. Paramount is launching a hostile bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery after the company lost to Netflix in a high-stakes bidding war. The company announced Monday, setting the stage for a corporate drama worthy of, quote-unquote, Succession. Paramount said it will offer $30 per share for the media conglomerate, which owns the Warner Brothers Film Studio, the cable channel HBO, the streaming service HBO Max, and a portfolio of cable brands, including CNN. They didn't mention it. The bid comes after Netflix agreed last week to buy a large part of Warner Brothers Discovery's studio and streaming assets for $27.7 per share, $27.75 per share. Netflix's takeover would not include the Warner Brother owned cable channels, which include CNN and TNT. The offer lays the groundwork what could become a public and contentious battle for Warner Brothers, a process that had already included appeals to President Donald Trump, who said he intends to play a role in any merger. Warner Brothers Discovery's board of directors has already approved its deal with Netflix, but Paramount's move to go directly to shareholders, a maneuver known in the business world as a hostile bid, will push what have been private negotiations into the public realm. Paramount's bid for Warner Brothers Discovery is the latest head-spinning twist in a saga that has riveted Hollywood, where film and television executives are growing increasingly uneasy about studio consolidation, contracting content spending, and the rise of generative artificial intelligence. In a news release, Paramount said its offer to Warner Brothers shareholders provides a superior alternative to the Netflix transaction, warning that a deal with the streaming giant risks entangling the studio in a complex regulatory process. Major corporate acquisitions are already complicated affairs, and when companies are willing to launch hostile bids and outbid each other, they can turn combative and litigious. litigious. But the competition for Warner Brothers Discovery has been further complicated by Trump's political involvement. While such acquisitions are always subject to government regulatory approval, it is exceedingly rare for a president to take a public role in a private transaction. On Sunday, Trump said Netflix buying Warner Brothers could be an antitrust problem. He added that he will be involved in the approval process for that deal. Donna, what say you?
Well, you know what I said when this was first announced? I said, well, I'm glad it's not Paramount. And then it was Paramount.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Because Paramount also seeks to make the news media more conservative. They have very strong intent. So I say, where's Elizabeth Warren where you need her? Remember when she was campaigning on the idea of breaking up these large monopolies?
Oh, yeah. She released something today.
She did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm about to get into that.
Get
She
into it.
said that a Paramount Skydance merger would be a 5-alarm antitrust fire, and exactly what our anti-monopoly laws are written to prevent. Although laws don't matter anymore, according to the Supreme Court. But anyway, she criticized some of the funding for the Paramount bid while urging that it be reviewed independently of Trump influence by the DOJ and the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Good luck on that. She said Paramount Skydance new house bill is backed by a who's who of Trump buddies, from Jared Kushner's private equity firm to the Ellison family to money flowing from the Middle East, raising serious...
The Ellison family. Say it out loud.
The Ellison family. These are the folks who have taken over CBS News. These folks don't have good intentions. Let's just be honest. Their intention is to further cheapen the news media. I don't watch television news, and I probably have not watched for about 12 years. I will not watch it anymore. But I think my concern is those people who depend on television news to understand what's happening in the world.
And a lot of people do.
And having their understanding further corrupted by people who are intending to mislead them. So the Fox News is no longer the only faux news out there. This is propaganda. And the ability of propaganda is scary. So the only thing that can happen, I'm so proud to be part of a podcast and a podcast ecosystem that speaks independently of those controls. But the only thing that can happen is independent media arising somehow, in the shadows, underground media that is seeking to fight back. It's kind of like those scary futuristic movies where people who tell the truth have to hide out and, they all look like they are unfunded and, living off the grid. That's the way it's beginning to feel like, because the intent is to control thinking, control politics in such a way that they will be able to increase their stranglehold on our
You said something
democracy.
so important, control thinking. That is so important. And, I had a lot to say about this in our Authentically Detroit group chat. First of all, I call it capitalism narcissistic, nasty, and violent. But the corporate consolidations, creating these monopolies and eliminating competition almost always ends bad for the customer, the consumer, right? Everything is going to cost $1 billion.
And in this instance, it's bad for democracy.
And it's bad for democracy.
In this instance, it's bad for freedom.
Yeah.
In this instance, it's bad for any kind of progressive policies. They're already attacking our universities. They're attacking our newspapers. And now this consolidation will mean that there's no other opportunity. I'm really, really stressed by this.
Me too.
And then also to read that the Supreme Court is also likely to rule to expand Trump's power even further. Make no mistake, we are living in a monarchy. And it makes me think of the fact that this is not something that we watch this Supreme Court stuff be unveiled every week. And it's like, how are they going to rule right now? As though somehow people are not getting together off screen and having conversations about the best way to change America, to reintroduce white supremacy as law of the land, and to further marginalize everybody else. It's scary.
It is. It is scary. And I think that this is not the time for us to put our heads under the pillow and not pay attention.
But I'm not watching the news.
You
can't make me.
I'm not saying that. I'm not
can't
saying
make
that
me.
you got to watch television news, but I am saying that we need to be paying attention to these mergers, to what's happening within the corporate infrastructure, these markets, and how the president is playing a very active role. This is unprecedented.
It's
unprecedented.
It is unprecedented. Although I think that if we go back in history, McCarthyism was a really bad time too.
It was a bad time.
We've had really bad moments in our history. This nation does not have clean hands going all the way back to its foundation when we just decided to annihilate a whole people. But I think that The challenge is, when you watch the news, this is why I don't watch television news, because they're obviously brainwashing you. The same topic over and over. It doesn't matter which station. When you come back, we're going to say the same thing we said before, and we're going to get somebody else to say it. We're going to get another talking head to make our point. Now we have a panel of talking heads all making the same point and narrowing the news focus to so many small things that we have conversations about whether or not Michelle Obama should wear sleeveless dresses. I absolutely refuse to have conversations about whether or not she should wear sleeveless dresses or whether or not it's racist to say she should wear sleeveless dresses and the color of Barack Obama's tan suit. That's what drove me out of television news, because it was just inane.
Yeah.
We have real issues, real problems, and real opportunities. Hopefully more people will be driven away from television news. I keep telling people, just go cold turkey. Be surprised. When Kevin and I started dating my current husband, we've been married for 5 years, but together for 7 years.
Your husband, not your current. Don't say
husband.
your.
Okay, that sounds bad. All right, that sounds bad. But he's the only one. He's the best, right? He's wonderful. But we first started dating. Kevin, I apologize, baby, because he listens to Authentically Detroit.
Does. I got your back, Kevin.
I'm gonna have to explain this. Oh my goodness. Anyway, we started dating. He watched CNN all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I cannot sit in the room with you when you watch CNN. And I'm proud to say neither of us watch it anymore. Sometimes he sneaks when I'm gone.
Yeah.
But it frees you up emotionally. Let's let all of this go, because we know what their intentions are.
Yeah, I haven't now, to your point, Donna, I don't think I've watched cable news in years, probably about the same amount of time as you. But I happen to be a fan of Gayle King and the CBS Mornings crew. So I like to watch. That's the only bit of, and you know this, I've said this for years.
I know.
That's the only bit of television news that I watch.
You of that fandom. She went up on that rocket ship.
She did. She lost me on that one a little bit.
She lost me before that, but go on.
What I will say, the question that I have for you, because earlier you talked about hitting 60, so that means that you are 60 and above. Have you lived through a time like the one that we're living in now? Because you talked about McCarthyism, but a lot of us weren't there.
No, I wasn't. Okay. I wasn't there. I just learned about it in school. I just know there was a Red Scare.
Yeah.
That was just prior to. My sister used to have to my older sister used to have to practice, hiding under desks for when the commies dropped bombs or whatever.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you had the Cuban Missile Crisis. You had these other manufactured crises. But what I lived through was the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And that alone should tell you it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We were literally, it was on TV. It was a televised war, watching people burning with napalm running down the street. And it was on TV, and you're watching the coffins go onto the planes. Nobody really ever explained the Vietnam War. It was a crazy war to begin with. Why are we in Vietnam? But what's the
Vietnam War? I guess my question, just to ask it more pointedly, the Vietnam War did not present, or did it? You can tell me, the constitutional and judicial crisis that we're seeing right now.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. Let me say this. The Vietnam War, you were drafted to fight a war.
Right.
Remember, Muhammad Ali was drafted. And he was taken to court. There was all kind of dishonesty going on. And a lot of that has been exposed through
so many books.
The Pentagon Papers and other places where they look and see how there was absolutely...
The Pentagon Papers said there's no way to win.
There's no way to win. But there's just all of the stuff that went on to deceive the American public. There was no reason for us to be in Vietnam other than, capitalism. Killing off destroying a whole nation. People look at and they say, I can't believe the United States supports genocide. And I'm like, what the hell do you think happened in Cambodia and in Vietnam? We have supported genocide in so many ways, in so many places. My parents met during the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
That my father joined the Air Force like so many people to avoid being drafted into Korea, where you'd have to actually go to battle. It's a long history, and this is a really bad inflection point, but I refuse to believe that this is the end.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to be brainwashed through the news, watching the news online, but you also don't want to stick your head in the sand and pretend that nothing's happening, like, what do you suggest for people to do?
There's
local news, hyper local.
I read.
Yeah.
If I read it, then I can stop reading it. I don't read it every 2 minutes. I can decide I'm going to read it one time, and I get my information, and I move on to other things. You don't just have to read local news. There's so many
Although
believe
you should
international
become a
news-
member at outliermedia.org.
You should. Outlier Media. Outlier Media. I love Outlier Media. I love Bridge Detroit. I read those every single day. I open up. That's one of the first things I do. But I also try to read international news.
Me too.
Now that you can translate things, it's always helpful to get a world perspective on things. So I think that reading is our superpower. It is something that we control. And I think social media used to seem like it was safe, but now social media has been contaminated. It's also dangerous. If you see a headline, read what's behind the headline. Ask yourself, is this reasonable? Verify that it's true.
And read who the news source is, because there are a lot of headlines that are not backed by reputable news sources.
And mind you, local media is not always reliable.
That's right.
Because local media helped lead us into Detroit's bankruptcy without giving the full story, helped support the school takeovers without telling the full story,
There's
has never really
culpability.
told this full story about what happened with the Education Achievement Authority and the loss of billions of dollars to students who should be receiving those right now. So I just think that we have a responsibility to talk to each other, read a lot, listen to independent media.
Listen
I
to
believe in
Authentically Detroit.
Listen to Authentically Detroit and other independent media,
Absolutely.
right? And I consider that, I'm not a journalist in the traditional sense of a journalist. I'm more like a citizen journalist, which means I can give opinions in ways that a real journalist cannot, or professional journalists, I'll say, cannot. But I think also there's so many people who have opinions who inform my understanding
Absolutely.
of the world, and that's why I'm excited to talk to you all today.
Yeah. Also, this was not included in hot takes, but this is, brand spanking news. So over the weekend, there was a lot of speculation that Mayor-elect Mary Sheffield had tied the knot. And I officially received word this morning from her comms team. Mayor-elect Mary Sheffield and her fiance, Ricky Jackson Jr., exchanged vows in a private ceremony over the weekend in Detroit. They are thrilled to begin their new life together while continuing their shared commitment to serving the city of Detroit. Here's their quote. "We are incredibly grateful for all of the love, prayers, and well wishes we've received during this special moment in our lives."
I could not be happier for her.
Yeah.
And not just because she's married, because, marriage isn't for everybody. And again, I'm very, very happily married now, but I've also been very unhappily married. But when you look at the pictures of them, they seem joyful together.
Yeah.
When you look in his eyes, he seems like a good person.
Yeah.
And she just has a look on her face that you rarely see on her face. So it just made me happy to see her in love with somebody who is looking at love with her back, because she has a really hard job ahead of her.
Yeah.
And I also read something where she said that he did not play a role in her campaign. He just helped her withstand some of the scrutiny and stuff that she was going against. And that's an important role that somebody who loves you can play. It's not always your cheerleader, not somebody playing a tactical role, but somebody just loving you enough that you can go out there and fight another day.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I said that I had posted something on Facebook earlier because there is a lot of, to your point, Don, a lot of local news outlets reportedly saying that she was married, but it was unsourced and unverified.
And they posted her engagement
They
photos.
posted her engagement photos
she
like it
probably
was the
did not
wedding.
wear a red dress
Right,
to her
the
wedding.
wedding. Yeah, it was
But
just weird.
I haven't seen a wedding photo, but I'm guessing it was not a red
Yeah.
dress. But those are beautiful engagement photos.
If you read it, Mayor-elect Sheffield, if you're trying to, give an exclusive of the wedding photos to a news outlet, you can give them an outlier. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back. Have you ever dreamed of being on the airwaves? Well, the Authentically Detroit Podcast Network is here to make those dreams come true. Formerly known as the Deep Network and located inside the Stoudemire, the Authentically Detroit Podcast Network offers studio space and production staff to help get your idea off of the ground. Just visit authenticallydet.com and send a request through the contact page. Welcome back to Authentically Detroit, everybody. Sidewalk Detroit exists to advance public life and strong social infrastructure through the lens of arts, culture, collaborative design, and deep engagement with residents. They practice an inclusive approach to creative city and neighborhood building that combines vision of residents, strategy, and artistic ideation to create engaging spaces, programs, and experiences that improve communities across Metro Detroit. Augusta Morrison is a cultural producer, community organizer, and musician. As program director at Sidewalk Detroit, Augusta employs a grassroots and emergent strategy approach. Come on, Adrienne Marie Brown, to foster meaningful connections between artists and communities. At Sidewalk Detroit, Augusta collaborates closely with each team member to ensure program efficacy, efficiency, and advancement. They also lead efforts to organize community and artistic specific engagements and support curatorial work influencing the organization's artistic direction. Billy Mark is an interdisciplinary artist who lives and works in Detroit. He's married to fiber artist Sarah Mark. His areas of exploration lately have been embodied poetics, experimental liturgies, and site-specific music and poetry. Billy and Augusta, we're so happy to have y'all with us. This emergent strategy approach, Augusta, I like it. Where you get it from?
Adrienne Marie Brown.
Tell us about it.
Well, we've been working on the emergent strategy approach for, I would say, probably since Sidewalk Detroit's...
Get a little closer to the mic, yeah.
Since Sidewalk Detroit's beginning, and we have to think small. Mm-hmm. And I love one of Adrienne Marie Brown's quotes is, you go up, 1 mile deep and 1 inch wide. So our approach to the ways we work with artists, the ways we work with community, how we're building out any project is we have to go deep and we have to really make our relationships authentic. We have to work really slowly. We have to build trust. And if you don't have trust, you're not going anywhere.
Can you sort of make plain this practice and how this practice of emergence, right, and emergent strategy shows up? Like, what, make it plain for people. What is it? Because people hear it and it's like, what does that mean?
Whew, okay. What does that mean, emergence? I feel like it's working with people that are, I guess it's staying true to your mission and your vision and your values. It is moving at the speed of trust. So if something doesn't feel right, you have to really check yourself and check who you're working with. And if that isn't feeling good, you have to pivot. You have to check in with your coworkers. You have to check in with, who is part of your community, and you kind of have to ask yourself, am I moving in the right direction? And you also may be versed in emergent strategy, so feel free.
No, you got it.
Feel free to jump in.
You're doing it. Yeah.
And I feel like it is, the emergent strategy approach, and thinking about Adrienne Marie Brown and the ways that we kind of move through all the different kind of avenues, whether we're working in Detroit or we're working outside of the city. We're always, I feel like, checking in with each other and I guess making sure that we're doing the right work. And our mission, we're working around equity. We are working around access and accessibility. We are at the forefront. We are highlighting our friends and our neighbors of color, our friends and our neighbors that have disabilities. We are educating ourselves around ideas that we may not be familiar or comfortable with. We are leaning into that discomfort. I feel like we're constantly kind of checking ourselves.
I can't think of a more important time to have an emergent strategy than a time such as this, where every day you're met with something new and nobody really knows what's going to happen next month. We're all predicting. Can you talk about how emergent strategies, how you are using emergent strategies to adapt right now?
Yeah, I think one thing that we're working on at our organization is around land acknowledgement and action steps. So we recently we're working with the Wabiautonong Arts Council, and we developed a land acknowledgement, but it's just not about saying, I acknowledge that I am on Wabiautonong, on Anishinaabe land. It is, what are the action steps that you're taking to actually pay your reparations? And it is working with Indigenous people. It is bringing Indigenous people into your programming. So we have a whole kind of list of action steps that we're implementing into our programming. We're educating our staff. We're starting a book club. I think it's just like we have to walk. We have to walk the talk the walk.
That's land acknowledgements frequently really irritate the crap out of me. I'd have to be really honest with you. You're standing in land that was, belonged to Indigenous people. You have no intentions of sharing any resource or power with them. You just, thank you for giving me your stuff. It's like I steal your car and I acknowledge it's yours while you're riding in it. And there's something wrong with that. So I love the fact, and I was at an event in, I want to say San Diego last year, where the land acknowledgement was followed with an action step. And it was led by an Indigenous person.
Yeah.
And so it made a lot of sense that she was saying, don't just say this is yours, because it's really not anymore. Okay, so, but right now, in addition to that, right now, we don't know what's going to happen with anything in our nation. We don't know whether or not the elections, or whether there's going to be, military police in Detroit next week. We don't know whether housing, as we know it, is going to be discontinued. We just don't know. Can you talk about emergent practices in the context of not knowing for people who sometimes feel paralyzed?
Yeah, so I feel like some of the things we're doing, and I feel like it is kind of from this very artistic approach, is we're working with our artists and working with whoever's kind of coming to our events, and we're thinking about what kind of resources or tools can we give them during our programming to make them smarter, more resilient, more resourceful. So like if a major climate disaster is coming, and let's say it's flooding, what are we doing to protect our neighbors so that they know exactly what to do? With our last Eco Artists in Residence, focusing all on stormwater and flooding, we went through almost a year-long process, and we're continuing to do this, trying to understand, when my basement floods, is the city there to help me? If the city's not there, is the federal government there to help me? If they're not there, what can I do to help protect myself? So we're trying to understand, what do we know, what don't we know, what resources are available, and what are some of those DIY, almost like cheap practices that we can do to kind of start protecting ourselves. I love that. Yeah, we're also thinking about, like, we started a camp out in Eliza Howell Park, and now we're just kind of in some ways, training kids to like how to be outdoors safely, but like fire safety, how to set up a tent, how to cook your own food. So just like really kind of simple, in some ways, some simple things, but just like I want to say like how to protect ourselves when these disasters strike. How are we prepared? So we're kind of thinking some things around preparedness, and I talk about kind of our artistic or creative approaches, but you can do this a lot through programming and making them free and accessible. So we are stewards of Eliza Howell Park, and we utilize that space to do a lot of events. And that's where Billy and our Earth Future Fellowship, which focused on working with artists that already have an emergent strategy approach, are working in communities and kind of are wanting to embed their creativity into kind of the social fabric of our neighborhoods, and are working around environmental justice. And all of the fellows had really beautiful avenues to kind of approach that work through music, installation, dance, and literary works.
Billy, talk about how that work is going and what it looks like.
Ooh. Can I just fan out for a little bit on Sidewalk? Just because
we love Sidewalk.
And the emergent strategies that you guys are talking about. Like, one thing, basically, the work that we're doing is kind of set within what Sidewalk's doing and set within this emergent strategies. One thing that I've really appreciated is this idea of the fractal, so that something that happens on a really small dimension is also, that same pattern is also happening on a really large dimension, right? And so I think that like when you're talking about, like, we're now facing times in which things are changing dramatically, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen next. And the arts are a beautiful way to ask some of those questions and put those into practice. And the container that Sidewalk has provided for so many people for so long is to allow this space where that kind of something that happens on a small scale can also happen on a big scale too. And so we can think through some of these ideas. Yes, I just really enjoyed just hearing all of the rapid fire information. I was like drinking from a hose. My question was legitimate. Like, what do I do then? Where do I get this information from? Because
we do move pretty quickly, don't we?
I love it.
The hot takes.
And so to start to work in a place that is emergent and where we can investigate and when we can feel like we have resources that are innate in us and that we do have what we need right here in each other and in ourselves and in this trust. And I keep saying that, like, trust is the new gold, because, like, what are you going to do without it? You need to find a way to cultivate it because it's a scarce resource, right? So to be to be in a space where these new ideas can emerge and to be like, no, it's not just a little small, cute art idea, and but no, it actually is important, a part of the community.
Absolutely. I think of the proverb, without vision, the people perish. And what is vision without art? Art, it gives you that vision. And a lot of times we look at art as something that's separate from protest, something separate from the real world. My mom was an artist. My husband's an artist. I revere art. And, because it's where you see something that you can't see. And so not only using art can you help people understand social problems or the existing conditions, but you can also visualize change. And so, can you talk about how, as artists, you're doing that within the Eliza Howell Park? What are you doing that really helps people understand the current condition, and what are you doing to help people imagine a future state?
Oh, that's such a great question.
Oh, man.
Such a great question.
Yeah, so Eliza Howell Park is a park that people overlooked for a long time. And Sidewalk had the vision to be able to say, no, we see something here. We see something creative. We see something natural. We see that place itself is a power. And so when we overlook that, we perish, right? And so that container of being invited into this, to that space, what have we been doing with that? Well, first of all, I love it as an artist. I love to come into a place where folks are clear and they have a direction, and they're like, here's a prompt, go wild. And so we were invited to Eliza Howell Park to really, what wound up happening is to have our ecological imaginations expanded, right?
Ecological imagination.
Yes.
Have you been in Eliza Howell Park? Yeah.
Oh, I used to work at the Brightmoor Community Center when, before Eliza Howell Park was really doing, before Sidewalk Detroit, I'll say.
Yeah, and so like to come to a place where to make work in that space is really honoring.
Environment, art, ecology, all of the things just sort of beautifully colliding together. Yeah.
And to do work where stuff that we've been doing is with sound maps and with sound, and basically we've been invited to listen to the environment and to create music from that experience of listening. And so again, it's a place where we may not it may not, how do I say it? Yeah, it's just great to be able to listen to something and then make something from that as well.
Billy, can you just share exactly like what the project, what someone would experience, like being immersed in Echoes? And
Absolutely. So the project that we did, I did it with Natalie Gallagher and a group of Detroit Soundmappers. We created how many acres is that place?
250.
Okay, 250 acres. So
the fourth largest park in Detroit.
So the experience of that is now when you go into Eliza Howell Park, you can put on your headphones and you can take out this platform. It's an app called Echoes.xyz. And you, as you walk through the park, music will open up around you, text will open up around you because your app is using a GPS. And to walk through a map that some creators have created by putting circles and polygons and attaching audio files to those areas, those zones on a map. So one side is the creators who are creating this map of compositions that you can walk through, and then the other half is, the other side of it is the way that people can walk through it and experience it. We talk about, it's like a podcast you can walk through. It's a poem you can walk through. It's place-based music. It's place-based text, so that when you create, so imagine having like use Google Maps, but we don't use Google Maps, but imagine taking that, drawing a circle around that tree, where that tree is located, and then you put a piece of music that you have created, so that when people hear that, they're not going to be able to hear it online. They're not going to be able to hear it anywhere else, just next to that tree. And so that people can have an experience with music and text. And that's one of the ways in which we as the composers, that we basically listened to the land and we started composing where the trees are and where they aren't. We really had a great relationship with it.
So, Mr. Billy, I have a question for you.
Tell me.
So, how often does like the app updates for the art pieces?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it updates whenever the people who are making a specific map, whenever we add something to it, then it updates. And that's a really great question, because what we wanted with this one is to make a living archive of something that wasn't just set it and forget it, but it can be updated, it can be added to, it can be open, so that people in the future can do stuff to it.
Do y'all for specific locations, do y'all have the old information from a previous art piece and have a newer art piece, or y'all just keep changing them for each areas?
Well, we have one for the whole, because this Eliza Howell Park is this big place, and so we worked with 5 different composers to kind of work together to create zones.
And you don't necessarily take down your exhibits; they are standing exhibits.
Right. So they are, since they're on the app, it's basically invisible. So you can just walk through it anytime. You wouldn't be able to see it, right, if there wasn't, if you didn't have your app on. So we really love that, the power of invisibility. And so that, once you go out, you click on that map, it'll show you, it'll open it up, and you'll see your little, like a little marker of where you are, and you'll see all these beautiful teal circles and polygons and shapes, and you walk closer to it, and you're like, oh, it's not working yet. I don't think this is going to work. Is this really going to work? You walk into it, and all of a sudden, you start to hear music. You start to hear people who have lived there before, and hear interviews. Oral histories.
Love it.
Come on. So we've taken this, and so what you're saying is so we worked with that app and that place, but we also use that app to do other things in other places, and I'd highly encourage it. One thing is Miss Gloria on our block, there was a vacant lot where her house no longer was, and a bunch of people on that block really wanted to know more about the history of their neighborhood. And so we all got together, like 20 folks, 20 people. We put up the microphone. Of course, it was should I go? Yeah, it was a 3D microphone. I won't go to it. It gets wild. We put up a microphone in between everybody, and she talked about her house and the block. And we took that recording, an hour-long recording, and set it on its own map, so that when you go there, you can just open up that map, walk there, and then listen to the history.
So, art, is obviously everybody's going to get something different out of art, right? Because we're all unique. But I'm wondering what your intended impact is with this kind of exhibit, because it's so unusual. It's not what you usually think of when you think of art. What are you hoping for people to get out of it?
Man, I love great
It's
questions.
such an immersive experience, it sounds like.
Yeah.
The immersion of it, right?
So one thing is just a different relationship with the invisible. Like there's people inside of all these houses, especially when you look at maps, right? Music itself is invisible. It's just really powerful experiences that we have. And so to put on headphones and use the power of sound to create layers that we can walk through and experience, hopefully that adds to our daily life experience when we walk just in general, knowing that there are all these beautiful things that are connecting.
So connections to the universe,
Sure.
past and present, and the unseen things that may be right there and you can't connect to. It's like this awareness that it's bigger than you.
Absolutely. And to each other, right? Stories in places. And I think the second one, just because it's a really great question, the second one is that where you were talking about how we can be sometimes force-fed by news. And then you also shifted to the second hot topic, which was Netflix. We can be force-fed creativity as well, of not just how to think, but how to think and feel through the arts. But to feel a sense of like when people put on headphones and like you can walk anywhere in that park. And where you walk is its own piece, and it's nobody else walks that way and is going to experience the same art piece. So to have a sense of like agency and how our bodies move and how where we go, creativity follows us. Like that's
I used to
thing.
walk in a park a lot, especially when I was younger. There was a park near my house, and I'd go walking there. I was just by myself. And I'd listen to a book or something like that. But I'm just trying to envision walking through Eliza Howe Park with my headphones on and really getting that same kind of release into the world. Because there's something about walking in nature and looking at trees that I've always enjoyed. I'm trying to imagine that. And it sounds amazing.
It's
So now I have to go there.
Yeah. How have you guys observed community reception to this installation and observe them interacting with it? Right.
Well, the first is a question. Like people are continually trying to understand, like, wait, how does this work? Like, what's going on? And then there will be a small tutorial, like you download the app, and it's like, okay. But then when they actually walk through it, wonder.
That was what was coming to my mind too. And we had our kind of like celebration in early October, beautiful, warm day. And I think, that wonder. And I put the headphones on and I was having my technical difficulties. And then I got in and I was like, wow. And it really I feel like there was a tuning in to my body and also to the space. So I think it really helped. I think it allows someone to kind of just like focus and really be present in that moment and kind of the distractions from all of those hot takes that, all of that news that's kind of coming or whatever is going on in your world. I think that just being really present and healing. I think when you're able to kind of tune into your body, tune into the earth and ground yourself, healing. And I think that is being out in nature and being in the parks. And that is one of the things that this fellowship has, I feel like, offer, and what we try to do through our art is offer a sense of healing. And I think that was one of the to be accepted. The fellowship was an application process. So when Billy presented his work, I was just like, this is exactly, I feel like what the park needs. And we do a lot of tuning into, what people are interested in, what they want to see at the park and the types of programming. And this is something that I felt like really represented what people are interested in. So it will stay there. It's not something we can take, it's not going to be taken down. So it will be there.
Yeah. I think about the conversations we were having earlier also, the anxiety that we feel in light of so much. And, sometimes we can give too much importance to things. And it kind of seems like it helps to balance it out and remind you that there's something bigger than all of us.
It gives you the invitation to do that.
Yes.
Because some of us need that invitation.
Me, like my mind is always going. And that's the reason I loved walking, because it kind of takes me out of myself. And I'm imagining that people have never needed to get away from themselves more than now. Because, even if you're just reading the news and getting the truth can be a lot. And then there's the truth, and there's a larger truth that this too shall pass. And sometimes it's really hard to get there because we're so stuck in that moment that we, I'm not saying who cares, but I'm saying there's things we can't control at all. And there's things we can control. And so I imagine for me, when I go there, and I will, because I'm really excited about these possibilities, that sense of balance that you get from being in that space. And it's amazing that it's in Detroit, because a lot of times we feel like we have to leave the city to get to places like that. Can you talk about the significance of having a project like this right in our community?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like because it's there to stay.
A little closer to the mic.
Sorry. Because the project is there to stay, it has a sustainable component to it. And at the park, we have put in new signs and wayfinding signs. So we're already starting to tell the story and the history of Eliza Howell Park. And now we have this musical composition that is also telling a story and a history of Eliza Howell Park. That to me feels like we are making the park feel inviting, warm. There's something interesting that you can see. There's something interesting that you can hear. There's the amazing birds and the bees and all of that that's there. But there's another added element that is in some ways kind of a little bit different and radical. And that is one of the things I feel like that makes Eliza Howell Park interesting, is this artistic layer that is starting to kind of weave through the paths. And as you're walking, it's like you can tune into these original pieces that you can't really find at other parks.
Yeah. And you go ahead, Anna.
I was just wondering about, because Chandler Park is in our community, and you have you have now a field house, and you have tennis courts and, volleyball and basketball.
Skate park.
And of course, a skate park. And then you have, Belle Isle with everything.
Baseball
They tore
diamonds.
down the zoo. I missed the Belle Isle Zoo. Palmer Park has its things. What makes Eliza Howell Park unique in comparison to those other parks?
A lot of it is it hasn't been built up. It has a natural beauty. It has a lot of native species have come back in the last couple years because we've been doing native rehabilitation, building out retention ponds. So we've literally documented and seen these animals come back: frogs, snakes, all different
Snakes.
Yes, all different types of
You have
birds,
warning signs?
turtles. There's a blog that is dedicated to all of the animals that have come back to Eliza Howell Park. You can check it out. I think it's just elizahowellparkblog.com.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
one more thing
sure.
to say before we get to our shout outs.
Sure.
From what I'm hearing about the park, it's like it's very significant into the community, and I'm questioning about how the people feel in the community on how they see the park and the information that they're consuming from it, and then the artist who's making these pieces for people to see and how they consume their information and outputting it to the people around them in this park.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Kenneth. And one of our I would say components of our work is the way we engage with community. So we've been working with the Brightmoor community since we started working in the park in 2016. We are now in our second framework plan. We have an Eliza Howell Park advisory group. We're working on developing and solidifying, but there are people that have been with us almost over the last decade. So anytime an artist or a program is being developed, we have a group of people that we're like, hey, this is what we're thinking about. What do you think? Anytime an installation this is the first draft. How does that look? Does this make sense? So there are people that we're checking in with, and that's what I was talking about, that emergent strategy. It's like all about trust and relationship building. So we have a very good relationship with the community of Brightmoor, and there's several individuals that have really kept us informed if there's any issues or challenges.
I also want to say that you can still experience, I know it's winter, but I got friends who love being outside now in the wintertime. It's weird. And so if you're one of those people, like my friend Sarita Scott likes to go on jogs and power walks in the morning, no matter what the weather is, go to Eliza Howell Park. You can still see the app and hear all the installations and the sound maps. That's what it is, the sound map. It sounds really cool. I got to see this. I have to do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll do it in the spring, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a warm weather person.
I'll do it in the
Not
spring.
hot weather person, but a little warmer than this.
A little warmer than this. Listen, if you have topics that you want to discuss on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. It is time for shout-outs. Donna, Kenneth, Billy, Augusta, y'all have shout-outs?
I do. I want to shout out the members of the Housing Development and Planning committee for the Rise Higher project for the mayor and the transition. We have meetings and people keep coming. I apologize. It's almost every day, but there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm just really proud of the commitment that Detroit residents who are members of this committee are making to ensure that we have a better Detroit moving forward.
Congratulations, Donna. You are chairing that committee, right?
I am co-chairing that committee. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, that's the reason why I keep on getting people. And, Darnell Adams, I want to shout out Darnell.
Yeah.
He just came in and he has this amazing vision, and some of the work that he's doing at the Gilbert Family Foundation is amazing. It's always wild when you think that you have an idea and it's a new idea and you find out somebody is not only doing it, but doing it well. And that's my relationship to Darnell Adams. He just does such great work.
Yeah. Ken, if you have any shout outs?
My shout outs to all them artists at the parks and you guys as well for coming here to be a part of the podcast. And I'm going to try and get my school to come to that park because it sounds amazing.
Kenneth, let's talk. We can work on that.
Okay.
I guess, do you have any shout outs?
I'll give a shout out to my dog, Seaweed.
What a name. I love that name.
And I guess just to my team, you guys are so great and love you.
Yeah, and I'd like to give a shout out to all of the composers who worked together on the map because, I get to come here and talk about it, but it really was a collective process. So Natalie Gallagher, Cy Tulip, Na Bonsai, and Zachariah L. Margabell. They just worked over the course of a few months and created something really spectacular. So shout out to them.
I can't wait to experience it. All right, y'all. That's going to do it for us. We thank you so much for listening. And until next time, love on your neighbor.